I was a successful software engineer who married Amanda, a single mom with a teenage daughter, Jessica. I treated Jessica like my own child, supporting her financially and emotionally, even when she pushed back. I moved them into my home, paid for everything, and truly believed we were becoming a real family. I never imagined my kindness would be repaid with the most devastating lie that would shatter everything I had built. Before I share how my world collapsed, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button as I reveal how a single lie can destroy everything you have worked for. I met Amanda at a company fundraiser 5 years ago. She stood out immediately with her warm smile and intelligent conversation. After exchanging numbers, we started dating and quickly became inseparable. Amanda was upfront about having a 14-year-old daughter from her previous marriage. Her ex-husband had moved across the country years ago and rarely kept in contact with them. When Amanda introduced me to Jessica, I understood this was a package deal. Jessica was quiet and reserved, barely making eye contact during our first few meetings. I knew winning her over would take time and patience. I was 32, had never been married, and suddenly found myself stepping into the role of a father figure to a teenager. The first year was challenging. Jessica tested boundaries, constantly coming home late, without calling, leaving messes around the house, and giving one-word answers to my questions. I tried everything to connect with her. I attended her school performances, helped with math homework, and even learned about the bands she liked so we could have something to talk about. After dating Amanda for 18 months, I proposed. We had a small wedding ceremony, just close friends and family. Jessica reluctantly served as a bridesmaid, looking uncomfortable in her dress but managing a smile in the photos. I bought a larger house in a better school district, hoping a fresh start might help us bond as a family. Gradually, things improved. Jessica began asking my advice about school projects. She seemed excited when I taught her how to drive in empty parking lots. For her 16th birthday, I surprised her with her own car, nothing fancy but reliable and safe. The genuine hug she gave me that day made me feel like I had finally broken through. My career was thriving too. I received a promotion to senior software architect, which came with a substantial raise. We took our first vacation as a family to Hawaii, where Jessica actually spent time with us instead of hiding in her room. Amanda and I started discussing having a child of our own, expanding our family further. Friends and colleagues often commented on how well we had adjusted. My buddy Thomas once told me, "I never thought I would see the day when Noah Wilson became a family man, but it looks good on you." I felt proud of the life we had built together. By our 3rd anniversary, Jessica was seeking my input on college applications. She wanted to study computer science, perhaps influenced by my career. I was more than happy to help scheduling campus tours and reviewing essay drafts. The thought that I had positively influenced her future filled me with joy and purpose. Amanda and I were closer than ever. We had our disagreements, of course, but nothing major. I believed we had successfully navigated the challenges of blending a family. I could not have been more wrong. The first signs of trouble appeared when Jessica entered her junior year of high school at 17. She became increasingly secretive, often coming home hours after her curfew with vague explanations about where she had been. Her phone was suddenly password protected, and she would take calls in whispers, ending them abruptly if I walked into the room. When I expressed concern to Amanda, she dismissed it as normal teenage behavior. "Just be glad she is not pregnant or on drugs," she would say with a laugh. But something felt off, and my instincts were screaming that something was wrong. I discovered Jessica had been lying about studying at the library when I ran into her friend Brooke at the grocery store. Brooke mentioned how she and Jessica had spent the afternoon at the mall, completely unaware that Jessica had told us she was preparing for exams at the library. When confronted, Jessica became defensive, so I went to the mall instead. Big deal. It is not like I was doing anything bad. Amanda sided with her, accusing me of being overly controlling. This created the first real tension in our marriage, a tiny crack that would eventually split wide open. Jessica began hanging out with a new group of friends her senior year. Her grades started slipping, and her once enthusiastic talk about college faded. I tried to talk to her, but my attempts were met with eye rolls and slammed doors. Then came the call that changed everything. The security office at the local mall caught Jessica shoplifting makeup worth over $100. When I arrived to pick her up, the security officer informed me they would not press charges this time, but she was banned from the store for 6 months. On the silent drive home, Jessica finally spoke. "Are you going to tell my mom I made what I now recognize was my first major mistake?" "No, I will not tell her." "But this cannot happen again, Jessica." She nodded, and I believed her tears of gratitude were genuine. I had no idea I had just given her the first taste of how she could manipulate me. Over the next few months, Jessica became increasingly entitled and disrespectful. If I asked her to help with dishes, she would claim she had too much homework. Yet I would find her watching shows on her laptop later. If I mentioned college applications, she would snap that I was not her real father and should mind my own business. Amanda and I had our first serious argument about parenting approaches. I felt Jessica needed more structure and consequences, while Amanda insisted I was being too hard on her. I understood Amanda wanting to protect her daughter, but I could see Jessica playing us against each other, and it was working. One evening I came home early and overheard Jessica on the phone in the backyard. "I would not have to deal with his rules much longer," she said, laughing. "He thinks he is my dad or something." What a joke. Her words cut deep. Despite 3 years of trying, I realized Jessica might never truly accept me as family. The situation escalated dramatically when Jessica took my car without permission one night, while Amanda and I were at a work dinner. She had only had her license for 4 months and was not insured to drive my vehicle. At 2 a.m., we received a call that she had been in an accident hitting a parked car after drinking at a party. Thankfully, no one was injured, but my car had significant damage, and Jessica could have faced serious legal consequences. When we arrived at the scene, the responding officer recognized me from community volunteer work and agreed not to charge her with underage drinking if I handled the damages privately. Instead of showing remorse, Jessica blamed me for the incident. "If you guys were not so strict about curfew, I would not have been rushing home and crashed." Amanda, to my disbelief, echoed this sentiment, suggesting that my rules were pushing Jessica to rebel. I felt completely blindsided by their united front against me. The tension at home became unbearable. Jessica was failing 3 classes, putting her graduation at risk. Despite her lack of effort, I paid for expensive tutors, desperate to see her succeed. When the tutors reported that Jessica often skipped sessions or refused to participate, Amanda accused them of not connecting with her daughter properly. Shortly after the accident, Jessica approached me about accessing her college fund early to buy a new car, since her current one was having mechanical issues. I refused, explaining that the money was specifically for education. This led to a screaming match, where she called me controlling and obsessed with money. The following week, I discovered something that shook me to my core. My mother had given Amanda some family heirlooms for safekeeping, several gold pieces that had been in my family for generations. When I went to show them to a visiting cousin, they were missing from their storage box. After some investigation, I found that Jessica had taken and pawned these irreplaceable items. The pawn shop owner confirmed that a young woman matching her description had sold the pieces, claiming they were inherited from her grandmother. When confronted, Jessica exploded in rage. "So what if I took them? This is my house too, and you are not my real dad. You cannot tell me what to do." Amanda arrived home during this confrontation, and rather than addressing her daughter's theft, she accused me of overreacting. "They are just things, Noah," she said dismissively. "We can buy more jewelry." I felt increasingly isolated in my own home, with Amanda consistently taking Jessica's side in every dispute. My work performance began to suffer as I lost sleep and focus dealing with the chaos at home. My boss noticed the decline, calling me in for a meeting about missed deadlines and errors in my code that were uncharacteristic of my usual work. The situation hit rock bottom when I came home early from work, feeling ill, and found Jessica using drugs in our home with 2 friends I had never seen before. The living room reeked of marijuana, and there were pills on the coffee table. When Jessica saw me, she did not even attempt to hide what they were doing, instead introducing me with a slurred, This is my stepdad. He is such a buzzkill. That night I gave Amanda an ultimatum. Either Jessica gets professional help, or I could not continue in this marriage. After hours of tears and arguments, Amanda reluctantly agreed to family therapy. However, Jessica sabotaged every session, either refusing to speak or making up complaints about living conditions to shift focus away from her behavior. During this period, I seriously contemplated whether I had made a terrible mistake in marrying Amanda. I loved her, but the strain of Jessica's behavior and Amanda's unwillingness to address it was destroying us. Just as I was at my breaking point, Jessica seemed to have a change of heart. She approached me one evening with what appeared to be genuine remorse. "I know I have been difficult, Noah. I am sorry. I do appreciate everything you have done for us. The college visits you arranged helped me realize I do want to study computer science. Could you maybe help me prepare for the program?" Those words were like a lifeline to a drowning man. I desperately wanted to believe her, to think that all my efforts had not been in vain. I spent the next 2 weekends helping her with programming basics, feeling hopeful for the first time in months. Little did I know this apparent reconciliation was setting the stage for the most devastating betrayal imaginable. I had to attend a 3-day business conference in Chicago, but managed to wrap up my presentations early. Excited to surprise Amanda and Jessica, I caught an early flight home without telling them. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I expected the house to be empty since Amanda would be at work and Jessica at school. When I quietly entered through the garage, I heard voices from the living room. Amanda was home unexpectedly, and I could hear Jessica crying. I was about to announce my presence when I heard my name mentioned in a way that froze me in my tracks. "I do not know how to tell you this," Mom Jessica sobbed, "but Noah has been making me uncomfortable for months now." "What do you mean uncomfortable?" Amanda's voice was sharp with concern. "He comes into my room without knocking. He stares at me too long. And last week when you were at your book club, he tried to touch me." The world stopped spinning. My brain could not process what I was hearing. This was a lie so enormous, so vile, that I could barely comprehend it. "Are you absolutely sure, honey?" Amanda asked, her voice shaking. "Yes, Mom. Why would I make this up?" Jessica cried harder. "I have been afraid to tell you. I thought you would not believe me because you love him so much." I stepped into the living room, my whole body trembling. "That is the most disgusting lie I have ever heard," I said, my voice barely recognizable. Both of them jumped in shock. Amanda immediately moved to stand between me and Jessica, her face transformed by anger and disgust. "How dare you spy on us?" she screamed. "Jessica, go to your room right now." Jessica ran upstairs, but not before I saw something flash across her face. It was not fear or trauma. It was triumph. I tried desperately to defend myself. "Amanda, you cannot possibly believe this. I have never, would never, do anything to harm Jessica. This is completely fabricated." But Amanda was beyond reason. She had already convicted me in her mind. There were no questions about inconsistencies, no request for details or evidence. Her daughter had made an accusation, and that was enough. "How long has this been going on?" she demanded, grabbing her phone. "I am calling the police." "Nothing has been going on," I shouted, panic rising. "Think about this logically. Why would Jessica wait until now to say something? Why would I jeopardize everything we have built?" But logic had no place in this nightmare. Amanda ordered me to pack a bag and leave immediately. In a daze I complied, knowing that staying would only escalate the situation. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, Jessica watched from her doorway with an expression I will never forget, a small, satisfied smile. Within hours, my life was completely destroyed. Amanda told her family, who told their friends. Rumors spread to my workplace. I received a call from HR, asking me to take administrative leave while they investigated concerns that had been raised about me. Friends I had known for years stopped answering my calls. My parents thankfully stood by me, but even they were shocked by the accusations. I checked into a hotel, still paying the mortgage on the house I had been forced to leave, and fell into a dark depression. The thought that kept repeating in my mind was, how do you prove something did not happen? How do you fight against a lie when the mere accusation is enough to destroy you? I contemplated ending my life. The pain of being falsely accused of something so heinous, combined with the betrayal by the people I had loved and supported, was unbearable. What stopped me was a call from my college roommate, David. "Noah, this does not add up," he said firmly. "Jessica has always seemed manipulative to me. I think you need to fight this." Those words pierced through my fog of despair. Fight. Yes, I needed to fight. The next day I hired both a lawyer and a private investigator. If Jessica was lying, and I knew with every fiber of my being that she was there, had to be evidence. Within 2 weeks, the private investigator struck gold. He had managed to gain access to Jessica's social media accounts through legal means and discovered direct messages between her and her boyfriend Tyler. The messages clearly showed Jessica plotting to get rid of me. "I need Noah gone," she had written 2 months earlier. "My mom always takes my side, but he is too strict. If he was out of the picture, we could do whatever we want. Plus, all his money would be just ours." Tyler had responded, "Just tell your mom he did something inappropriate. She will kick him out instantly." The investigator found dozens of similar exchanges, including messages from the day of the accusation, where Jessica told Tyler her plan was in motion. Additionally, he discovered the real motivation behind Jessica's scheme. Tyler, who was 21 and had dropped out of community college, wanted to move in with Jessica. He had been kicked out of his parents' house for selling drugs, and Jessica knew I would never allow him to live with us. Armed with this evidence and timestamps that proved I was in business meetings during some of the times Jessica claimed incidents occurred, my lawyer filed for divorce and prepared a defamation case. When presented with the evidence, my company's HR department closed their investigation and welcomed me back to work. A few close friends who saw the proof apologized for doubting me. But Amanda refused to even look at what we had found, insisting that Jessica would never lie about something so serious. This blind faith in her daughter, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, confirmed that our marriage was irreparably broken. No relationship can survive without trust, and Amanda had shown that her trust in me was conditional and fragile. My lawyer advised me to take a strategic approach. Rather than just defending myself, we would go on the offensive. I filed for sole ownership of the house which I had purchased before the marriage. I documented every penny I had spent supporting Jessica, including the college fund I had established for her. And I prepared for a confrontation that would finally expose the truth. After weeks of preparation, my lawyer arranged a formal meeting with Amanda, Jessica, and their attorney. The conference room was tense as we all took our seats. Jessica avoided eye contact, while Amanda glared at me with undisguised hatred. My lawyer began by outlining the seriousness of false accusations and the evidence we had gathered. As he displayed screenshots of Jessica's conversations with Tyler, the color drained from her face. When he played a recording of Tyler admitting that Jessica had made up the whole story to get me out of the house, she began to cry. But these were not tears of remorse. They were tears of a person caught in their own web of lies. "I have never made more appropriate advances toward Jessica," I said, maintaining eye contact with Amanda. "For 3 years I have supported your daughter, financially and emotionally. I treated her as my own child, and this is how she repaid that kindness." Jessica finally broke under the weight of evidence. "It was just supposed to make him leave," she shouted. "I did not think it would get this big." Amanda looked as though she had been struck. She turned to her daughter in disbelief. "You lied about something like this." Jessica, cornered and desperate, began revealing other lies she had told over the years. The shoplifting incident had not been her first offense. She had been stealing from stores for months. The drugs I found her using had been purchased with money stolen from Amanda's purse. She had deliberately failed classes to spite me, after I refused to let her attend an unchaperoned weekend trip with Tyler. With each confession, Amanda seemed to physically shrink in her chair. When Jessica admitted that Tyler had been staying overnight in our house whenever we were away, something inside Amanda finally broke. "How could you do this?" she whispered to her daughter. How could you lie about something so serious? For the first time I felt a flicker of pity for Amanda. She had been manipulated by Jessica too, though her blind spot for her daughter had made it possible. My lawyer then presented our divorce terms. I wanted full ownership of the house, which was legally mine anyway. Amanda and Jessica would need to vacate the property within 30 days. The college fund I had established for Jessica would be dissolved with the money returning to me. There would be no alimony given the circumstances of our separation. Amanda's attorney advised her that fighting these terms would be futile given the evidence of Jessica's false accusations. Still, Amanda made a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage. "Noah, I'm so sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I should have questioned it. I should have known Jessica was lying. We can fix this." But there was nothing to fix. The trust was shattered beyond repair. In that moment I felt nothing but a cold certainty that this chapter of my life needed to end completely. "I do not hate you, Amanda," I said honestly, "but I cannot be married to someone who would believe I was capable of such a thing without even questioning it. We are done." The court proceedings went entirely in my favor. Jessica, now 18, was required to sign a legal statement admitting to her false allegations, which would protect me from any future claims. She was also ordered to complete 200 hours of community service, though this felt like an inadequate punishment for the damage she had caused. 2 weeks later, I stood in the driveway of my home, watching as Amanda and Jessica loaded the last of their belongings into a moving truck. Amanda tried one final time to speak with me, but I simply turned and walked back into the house. As their car pulled away, I felt a complex mixture of vindication, grief, and surprisingly relief. The family I thought I had was gone, but so was the toxic environment that had been slowly destroying me. The process of rebuilding my life was neither quick nor easy. I focused first on my career, throwing myself into work projects that I had neglected during the turmoil. My company, seeing my renewed dedication and understanding the trauma I had endured, offered me a promotion that I gratefully accepted. I attended therapy sessions twice weekly, working through the trauma and betrayal with a counselor who specialized in false accusations. Through this, I learned that my experience, while painful, was not uncommon. I joined a support group for men who had been falsely accused, finding strength in their stories of resilience. Friends who had abandoned me during the accusations slowly attempted to reconnect. I forgave some, but realized others had never truly been friends at all. My circle became smaller but infinitely more loyal and genuine. I received occasional letters from Jessica, half-hearted attempts at apology that never acknowledged the full extent of the damage she had caused. I did not respond to any of them. Amanda called several times, but I had my number changed. Some wounds are too deep for continued contact to be healthy. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. Despite its value having increased, I could not bear to live in a space filled with so many painful memories. I purchased a smaller home in a different neighborhood and began the process of creating a new life for myself. I volunteered with a mentoring program for at-risk youth, finding purpose in helping teenagers who actually wanted guidance. I focused on my physical health, taking up running and weightlifting as outlets for lingering anger and stress. I reconnected with old hobbies that I had abandoned during my marriage, rediscovering parts of myself that had been suppressed. The first holiday season alone was difficult but peaceful. I hosted a small gathering for my parents and closest friends, people who had never doubted me and had supported me through the darkest period of my life. Eventually, I cautiously began dating again. The experience had left me wary of blended families, a limitation I was honest about with potential partners. When I met Samantha, a kind-hearted doctor who understood my hesitation and respected my boundaries, I found myself opening up again to the possibility of trust. Looking back now, 2 years after Jessica's lie nearly destroyed me, I realized that losing what I thought was my family actually freed me to find genuine happiness. I learned painful but necessary lessons about evidence, boundaries, and the courage to stand up for the truth. I often think about what I would tell my younger self before he met Amanda and Jessica. I would not warn him away from the relationship completely, because despite the pain I grew in ways I never would have otherwise. Instead, I would tell him to trust his instincts more, to establish stronger boundaries, and to remember that sometimes the family we choose can hurt us even more deeply than strangers. Have you ever had someone you trusted completely betray you with a lie? How did you rebuild your life afterward? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of overcoming betrayal and finding strength. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes losing toxic people is the first step to finding peace.